Okay, let's jump right in. In the final words of Moses, right before he passes the torch, there's this one curious little verse. It's a line that mentions a king at a time when, well, Israel didn't have one. It's a real head-scratcher, a historical riddle. And today, we're going to unlock it.
So here's the verse, Deuteronomy 33:5. For there was a king in Israel. Now, if you're familiar with the timeline at all, this should set off some alarm bells. I mean, this is Moses talking, generations before Israel would even think about asking for a human king. So who in the world is he talking about?
And that, right there, is the central puzzle. We're talking way, way before Israel's first human king, Saul, ever shows up on the scene. It's kind of like reading a history of the American colonies and seeing a mention of our president in the 1600s. It just doesn't add up. So what is going on here?
Well, the answer turns out to be both incredibly simple and, at the same time, really profound. This verse isn't talking about some guy sitting on a throne wearing a crown. Nope. This is a huge theological statement. The king in Israel at this time, their one true sovereign, was God himself.
But hold on. That's only half the story. See, the verse isn't just about who the king was. It's also about when his rule became, well, real, tangible. The verse gives us this very specific trigger, when the leaders of the people gathered. This is the key moment, when the idea of God as king stops being abstract and becomes something you can actually see.
So here's how it worked. First, you get the leaders together. We're talking the heads of all 12 tribes. Then, in that assembly, something amazing happens. They stop acting like a bunch of separate families and start acting like one single unified nation. And it's right there, in that harmony, that's when God's authority, his kingship, truly shines. You could almost say his kingdom on earth was literally powered by their unity.
Now, it's really important to get this straight. This wasn't some political summit where they're hammering out a treaty. No, this was something much deeper. At its core, this was a religious act. This was the whole nation coming together to reaffirm their loyalty, to recommit to the covenant and the law, and to basically say out loud, God is our one true king.
And all of this builds up to this really unique form of government. The technical term for it is a theocracy, which literally just means rule by God. And you really have to grasp this to get what was going on in early Israel. Their whole concept of a kingdom was just fundamentally different from the monarchies that would show up later.
Let's put them side by side. It makes it super clear. In one corner, you've got the divine king. His rule is based on law and a covenant. His power, you see it when the people come together as one. Then, in the other corner, you have the human king that comes much later, a political and military figure who's leading armies and collecting taxes. They're just two totally different ideas of what leadership even is. When you boil it all down, it just comes back to this one simple number. 1. The whole thing hinges on it. The tribes acting as one nation, under their one true king, guided by one law. That concept of oneness, that unity, was the engine that made the whole system run.
Which brings us to the big takeaway from this one little verse. This is way more than just a piece of theological trivia. It's a powerful statement about where real strength actually comes from. For ancient Israel, divine power was literally channeled through human unity.
So, let's wrap this all up. The mysterious king was God. His system of rule, this theocracy, was built on the foundation of the law. But, and this is the crucial part, his authority wasn't just some vague idea floating in the clouds. It became real, something you could see and feel, the moment the people put their tribal differences aside and came together. Unity was the key that unlocked the kingdom.
And that leaves us with a much bigger question, doesn't it? One that echoes far beyond this ancient text. The verse tells us that unity showed God's kingship, but it really makes you wonder, what is it that truly makes any people united? Is it a common law, a shared purpose, or is it a belief in something bigger than any one of us? That's definitely something to think about.